The first episode opens in a school, with a girl scratching something into a wall. She then turns on her phone camera and begins recording, explaining that the rules are simple. Write down your saju, make a wish, and it will come true. With an unsettling calmness, she reveals her wish for everyone watching to die. Without hesitation, she raises a paper cutter to her neck and, right in front of the camera, makes a sudden, fatal move, bringing her recording to a shocking end. Next, we're introduced to a girl named Saya. Her aunt has to leave for a hospital emergency, so she leaves her card behind for her. Saya texts her friend Jongwoo, who lives just above her apartment, telling him that if he's still asleep, she'll head out without him. Hearing this, Jongwoo quickly rushes out and hurries over to her. When he arrives, Saya playfully teases him that running in the hallway isn't allowed. She then suddenly turns and kisses him. Caught off guard, Jongwoo asks if she really just kissed him. She brushes it off, saying she won't do it again, but he admits he actually liked it and wouldn't mind if she did. Next, we're introduced to Nari, who clearly has a crush on Jongwoo. The moment she spots him, she hurries over to grab his attention. He calls out to her, but seeing Saya beside him instantly dampens her mood. Trying to keep things normal, Nari asks Jongwoo what he's doing after school, but Hyeong-wook suddenly barges in, interrupting the moment. He senses something off and teases Jongwoo and Saya about spending so much time together, asking if they're dating. Saya brushes it off casually, while Jongwoo explains that they live in the same apartment building, so of course they'd come to school together. But Hyeong-wook isn't convinced and turns to Nari for backup, who, instead of agreeing, asks what he ate to make his breath smell so bad. Hyeong-wook questions her sudden reaction, then jokingly suggests she must have a crush on Jongwoo too. Without hesitation, Nari admits she's in love with him and asks why everyone keeps pretending otherwise. Trying to lighten the mood, Hyeong-wook jokingly says he likes her too, but Nari warns him not to joke like that again, or she will make sure he die. When they arrive in class, it's clear that Ha-jun has feelings for Saya, and he quickly picks up on the tension between her and Nari. Hyeong-wook is about to hint at something going on between Saya and Jongwoo, but before he can say anything, the teacher walks in, cutting the conversation short. He announces their class ranked first in math citywide, with only 4 perfect scores, and 2 of them are in this room. He calls out the first name, Ha-jun. The class applauds for him. Then comes the second name, Hyeong-wook. The room falls silent in shock. Even Hyeong-wook looks stunned. The teacher admits he's surprised as well, but still encourages the class to applaud. Just then, Hyeong-wook's phone buzzes with a notification from an app called Giriggo, stating that a wish has just been granted. Later, when they question Hyeong-wook about whether he cheated, he insists he knows something they don't. He then introduces them to Giriggo, an app that supposedly grants wishes. Saya brushes it off, saying she's always tried to understand him as a friend, but this is going a bit too far. Jongwoo says he can't find anything, to which Hyeong-wook explains that it won't show up through a normal search and sends them a direct link instead. Curious, Jongwoo immediately taps on it, and Saya warns him he might be risking his phone, but he says he wants to know how Hyeong-wook managed a perfect score and suggests they test the app properly. As he opens it, he grows uneasy when the app activates the camera, but Hyeong-wook tells him how it works. He explains you have to write your name and your saju on paper, then record your wish and hit send. Saya says she can't believe he found something like this, and he simply replies that he has his ways. Jongwoo asks for proof, so Hyeong-wook shows them his recorded wish, where he wished for a perfect math score. Jongwoo laughs it off, calling it ridiculous, while Nari questions why she's even stayed friends with him this long. One by one, they start to leave, but Saya stops for a moment, telling him she knows he's under pressure because of his grades, but he needs to stop acting so strange all the time. Hyeong-wook tries to show her the message he received when his wish supposedly came true, but it opens a countdown instead. Later, Nari vents, calling Hyeong-wook ridiculous and mocking the video, saying it's absurd he trusted a strange app and even picked a wish that suited him perfectly. Saya points out that maybe he just wanted to make his parents proud, but Nari asks she think if he ever thinks about anyone other than himself. Nari constantly badmouths Hyeong-wook, but freezes when she suddenly sees him. She asks if he was spying on her conversation, then quickly tells him that they were actually talking about his birthday gift. He laughs it off, saying he doesn't need any presents, that having them there is more than enough. Meanwhile, a woman named Hisal is seen praying at a shrine. As she turns to leave, a white snake slowly emerges from within the shrine and coils itself on top. Sensing something isn't right, Hisal pauses and looks back. She heads inside and tells Bangul that they're about to receive a guest. At first, he playfully asks if it's a good one or a bad one, but when he notices her serious expression, his tone shifts. Standing up, he admits she's starting to worry him. He asks if he should grab his knife, but Hisal says she isn't sure, as she can't yet tell what kind of guest they're dealing with. Back at school, the coach scolds Jong-woo for repeating the same mistake that got him disqualified last year. She points out that he hasn't managed a single clean jump in any competition this season, and tells him he needs to get out of his head and learn to control his nerves. That evening, during class, Hyeong-wook struggles to solve the problems, and growing increasingly frustrated, he ends up taking some pills. Meanwhile, the coach tells Seiya that the national reserve team has reached out and selected her for special training. She explains that the sessions will run after school and on weekends, as they want to sharpen her skills as much as possible. She then teasingly asks what Seiya plans to do once her weekends are packed. Won't that leave no time for dates? She even tells her that she could bring Jong-woo along to train with her if she wants. Caught off guard, Seiya admits she thought no one knew about them, but the coach says it's pretty obvious. Hyeong-wook receives a call from Seiya and steps outside to answer, but there's only silence on the other end.
What's going on?
Suddenly, something hits the window, startling him, and when he looks over, he sees a cat outside. Moments later, voices come through the phone. His friends, complaining about how tired they are of looking after him at school, and even on weekends. They say they wish he would stop following them around all the time. Hearing this, his expression hardens with anger. The call abruptly cuts off, and he sees the Giriggo app on the screen. He quickly tries calling Seiya back, but her phone isn't with her, and this further intensifies his anger. After school, Seiya tells Jong-woo that she's been selected for the national team, and just then, all the lights in the school suddenly go out. She tells him not to be scared, but he smiles and says it's the opposite. He's with her, and he's proud of her. She also tells him that the coach somehow knows they're dating, and she has no idea how, since she hasn't even told their friends. Later, Seiya texts her aunt to share that she's made it to the national reserve team, and that's when she notices 39 missed calls from Hyeong-wook. She's just about to call him back when a reply from her aunt pops up, congratulating her and letting her know she won't be home. Seiya orders chicken using her aunt's card and shares it with Jong-woo. As they eat, she mentions that she missed several calls from Hyeong-wook earlier that day. He asks why, and she says she don't know, and then decide to call him back. Meanwhile, Nari sneaks into a club with her fake ID and meets a guy. She suggests him selling IDs for easy money, but he says that's not his work. And just then, Hee-jin walks in. On the other hand, Ha-jun is about to open the Giriggo link when his phone rings, and puzzled by the sudden call, he sets it aside. Seiya calls Hyeong-wook about his missed calls, but he insists she called him first and told him she wouldn't come to his birthday. She apologizes, explaining she has weekend training, and he abruptly hangs up. She tries calling him back, but his number is suddenly unreachable. Puzzled, she wonders how did he even know. Then, she asks Jong-woo if he's going to the party, and he says, of course, as Hyeong-wook is his best friend. He then teasingly asks if she's worried about Nari being there, but Seiya quickly denies it. Still unsure, she wonders if she should ask her coach to postpone the training. That's when Jong-woo gets an idea. He writes his name and birth date, opens the Giriggo app, and records a wish to cancel Seiya's weekend training. She tells him to stop, but he brushes it off, saying if it can grant perfect scores, it can cancel training too. The next day at school, Nari is absent, and Seiya notices Hyeong-wook sitting quietly, staring intensely at Nari's empty desk. Suddenly, a countdown starts on his phone, and the sound catches the teacher's attention. He calls out Hyeong-wook, asking if he's asleep, and his friends try to warn him that the teacher is getting upset. But Hyeong-wook doesn't respond. Out of nowhere, he gets up, and it's immediately clear that something is very wrong with him. Alarmed, the teacher asks the student to call the nurse, while others try to snap him out of it. He slowly lowers his head, and his friends cautiously asks if he's okay. urging him to stay calm. The teacher tells him to sit down, but instead he reaches into his pouch and pulls out a paper cutter. Everyone backs off in terror, and as Jong-woo steps forward, trying to take it from him, Hyeong-wook suddenly pushes him away. Then his arm twists unnaturally, as if he's no longer in control of his own body. Seiya pleads with him to stop, asking what he's doing, but he points the blade toward her, warning her to stay back. She reminds him that they're friends, but in the next moment, he lunges at her, and the two of them crash out of the classroom. As Seiya looks up, she sees Hyeong-wook staring at his phone, and the countdown shows only 30 seconds remaining. He calls himself a loser, and then he suddenly stands up in a way that feels completely unnatural. Seiya begs him to fight it, to let go of whatever is controlling him, but something unseen seems to take over, and right in front of her. As she watches in shock, he makes a sudden, fatal move, and the screen cuts out, ending episode 1 on a chilling note.